house is about identity. The second is about seeing to the material needs of that identity. When I say material needs, I don't just mean food, shelter, and clothing. There's another level to the material. That level includes a sense of personal worth and stability. You see, a well-defined, solid sense of self gives a foundation strong enough to build upon. And building a material life is the role of the second. How you tend to do that, your style of providing for yourself, is shown by the condition of the second and what planets are there. What if Neptune's there? We know that Neptune is a spiritually minded planet. It not only has a yearning for transcendence, it also has a certain disdain for the material plane. Therefore, it can be said that the second is a naturally incompatible place for Neptune. How else should you interpret the formless planet in the house of form? In the house of reality, we deal with Neptune's sleight of hand. And maybe financial problems aren't financial after all. Maybe they're actually emotional. And if you heal the wounds inside, you heal the pocketbook. Maybe financial problems are spiritual problems. And it isn't about money at all. It's instead about living in the flow. And this placement is sure to have fear and anxiety, not only on money, but also on self-worth and their internal currency. Should I even want what I want? Are my desires normal? Are my motives pure? Neptune always distorts what it touches, so it's hard for Neptune to see money and self-value with clear eyes. The basic anxiety here surrounds making a living and providing for the self. Just to be clear, there's no inheritance in this house. That's on the other side of the wheel. The second is only earned money. That way, second house money stays connected to self-love. Earned money can say things about you as an individual, but inherited funds seldom say anything about your worth that's authentic. So the eighth is money that's been earned by others. The second is money you've worked for in some way. Now, let's talk about the unconscious level of the second house. When Neptune's found here, there are almost always wounds to self-love, especially in seeing your talents and inner resources as worth something. You may have a basic spiritual idea that nobody's worthless. It isn't possible to be born into a body and have no value. But that doesn't stop the undertow. That tells you the opposite. Neptune brings this kind of anxiety to the house he inhabits. In the second, anxiety targets money and worth, possessions, and self-possession. Neptune symbolizes distorted perceptions too. That means Neptune in the second house isn't about how much money you have. It's about how much money you believe you have. A person may claim that they're broke because they're down to $10,000 in the emergency account. And there are millionaires who are too afraid to leave a tip. There are also people at the other end of the spectrum who have nothing and yet feel wealthy. Neptune in the second suggests all of these kinds of perceptual issues throughout a lifetime. Actual poverty is probably the most common story I hear from these natives. Sometimes this is self-created, and sometimes it's the conditions surrounding them until they can make changes. Another thing I hear quite a lot is that emotional issues and fears result in times of unemployment. And Neptune in the second finds itself in situations where they don't actually provide for themselves. Let's focus on possessions for a moment. All of your possessions are in this house. There are two reasons for this. One is that objects are material wealth. Anything that can be sold for money is a form of money, whether or not it adds up to much. Another reason that possessions are in the second is a little more abstract. The objects you own, the ones you freely select and keep, reflect you. This house is ruled by Venus, not Libra's Venus, but the earthy material Venus associated with Taurus. Whatever sign she rules, her symbol is the same, a hand mirror. Because what you possess reflects you. What you appreciate reflects you. The life you build reflects you too. The decisions you make reflect your self-worth. How much value do I have? This is the question upon which your decisions are made and the substance of your life is decided. The second house is where self-esteem and money come together, and we decide what we want to charge for our services if we think we're worth it. Neptune in the second tends to feel guilty or even exploitive in charging anything. Money is such a dirty business. You can't have a pure heart and rake it in. Another factor I've found with the spiritual planet in the house of money is simply the idea that their time is more important than wealth. Being able to enjoy the simple pleasures, to lay in sweet repose, is better than the late model car. Now we've come to minimalism. This is another way this placement is expressed. Neptune is an extremist, so expenses can be shaved down to nothing. This placement might move to rural India, where you can get by on $100 a month. You have to give up comforts, but that's made easier by resenting the hold that money has over the whole Western world. Neptune here could also choose minimalism through a vow of poverty that cleanses the spirit. I've seen some other ways to do Neptune in the second, gambling, for instance. It isn't for everyone, but when you gamble, money flows in and out in an exaggerated tide. Let's not forget that Neptune is the planet associated with drugs, and gamblers are inebriated by wagering. The planet of drunkenness in the house of possessions also brings the compulsive shopper, binging and purging objects, the tide of possessions flowing in and out, the high of the buy. Yes, excessive shopping fits. But let's end with the other side of Neptune, the imaginative side, the faithful and limitless side of this planet. These natives might perceive a whole sea of money out there for the taking, and they imagine the absolute good they could do with money. All they have to do at that point is tap their trident on the ground. money flows over and then begins to overflow. These natives tend to be good at manifesting wealth once they explore the unconscious obstacles in their way. Thank you for watching Secrets from an Astrologer's Desk. Stay tuned for all the ways you can get in touch for a birth chart reading and full astrological services. I'm Joy. More videos to come.